Hey YouTubers, Grimmy here, and this is the video review for the Transformers Thrilling 30 Protectobots Emergency Response Set. And yeah, I'm branding this as a Thrilling 30 because there's no sign of this being a Generations or a Age of Extinction or Prime or anything else. The only thing I got is Thrilling 30. But yeah, this is supposed to be an Asia exclusive, which Amazon.com is also releasing as well. So if you want to get this set, it's on, you have to order it online, yeah. And interesting enough, this is one of the Thrilling 30 special releases, this one being number 17 of 30. With 16 being the other Protectobot set of Hotspot and Blades. But, I guess in celebration of the 30th anniversary, the Protectobots are finally getting some love. Although they're not going to be combining. We still got the Combiner Wars next year, so don't lose hope on that. But, yeah, for this we got First Aid, Street Smart, or better known as Streetwise, and Groove, whose box art clearly depicts that he is not in any way a girl. Yeah, that is a very butch use of the RC mold. But yeah, we'll get into that a little more later. But as you can see, the vehicle modes are pretty much reuses of the Prime RID and Prime Beast Hunters figures. PRID Ratchet, Beast Hunters Prowl, and PRID Cyberverse RC. Which, you know, as far as emergency response vehicles, yeah, this works. This actually does work. The set is good. I mean, you got an ambulance, a police car, and a police motorcycle with guns on it. Okay. That might be a bit much. But the motorcycle mode does scale well with the other two vehicles. So, it was a nice choice. Honestly, though, I would have preferred animated Prowl for this, just because it would have gone a little bit better with the set. But, you know, I'm getting a little bit out of touch here. The vehicle modes are painted very well. You got this ambulance, which has a nice red and blue stripe on the side, blue ambulance lights, and a nice big blue Autobot symbol. And it's not a Wreckers logo, it's an actual Autobot symbol. But for the Protectobots, they're all done in the blue. And that is a really nice cross with the Autobot symbol inside it. I think that's a cool detail. So the vehicle mode is pretty nice. Paint-wise, what I've covered already, which are nice details, but are pretty much it. So, yeah, and he's got a silver bumper and grille with white headlights. No tail lights or anything. Yeah, it's a little bit on the plain side. I mean, what's there are pretty cool, but it could use more. Streetwise, yeah, I'm going to call him Streetwise after his G1 self, is again pretty plain looking. You got an Autobot symbol and a star, very similar to Prowl's, although there's a lot more detail in the symbol, which is a nice touch. The grille is done in the silver paint. You got some nice headlights. You do have the light bar on there, and as you can see, the gun does store on the light bar as well, much like the Beast Hunter's Prowl. You got the police logo on the back, and Autobot symbols on the side in this nice blue paint scheme. which is nice. I do like the blue and white. It does help separate him from Prowl, which any attempt to separate him from Prowl is appreciated. And you'll probably see why as I go into this a little more. And then you got Groove, who, oddly enough, gets two versions of the blaster. Or not two versions, but two copies of it. Which is nice since RC only came with one of these. And it helps even them out. And you can either use them as guns or as really big exhaust ports. Depending on how you want to display it. But taking them off, you get still a very nice motorcycle. And you know, I've always been a fan of the RC molds, and the Cyberverse one is actually done pretty well too. And the paint job for this is nice. You got the white stripes on the lighter blue, and it is a much lighter blue than the Cyberverse RC, which is a good thing. You got a white and black on the seat, yellow headlight, but that's about it for detail. And I think the vehicle modes may have, while they're lacking in paint, may actually be a little bit better at separating these guys from the ones that they're repainted from than their robot modes. You know, for example, I'll bring in the others for comparison. Like here's Prowl. We'll get this one out of the way. As you can see, it looks like the plastic choices are pretty similar, if not exactly the same. You got the same yellow headlights, same, well, somewhat lighter tinge of blue on the windshield and windows, and same colored headlights, and even the same white plastic base. But the differences are in the paint. Prowl has a black front, while Streetwise has blue sides. But the paint, the police logo is in the same area with the same font. It's just just a little bit of a different color. And even the police shield is in the same spot, except for Streetwise has a little more detail in there. But for every difference, there seems to be a bit of more similarity. Which is a bit of a drag, since this is the fourth American release of this mold. I mean, that's including Barricade, who was a really good figure for separating himself from the others. And it's also including Smokescreen, who doesn't have the light bar, but is still essentially the same mold. Another comparison, we're going to bring First Aid in, and we're going to compare it to Ratchet, who has a lot of repro labels on him. So he's painted a little bit more. But even without the repro labels, I think he would have had more paint on him than what First Aid would have in this form. Or maybe not, it's just different colors used. Like, this has red, or this one has white. The front is painted more, like the front bumper and the hood have a lot more paint than the First Aid does. The sides are a bit different. Again, this is where the repro labels will come into play, though. So it's hard to make an accurate comparison. to each other because this has a lot of stickers, and the stock didn't have the heartbeat or the line in there or the chrome on it. So this is probably going to be mostly white anyway, as is the back, since all the details on the back are retro labels, except for the except for the silver on the back bumper, which wasn't even present on First Aid. All in all, while there are some really cool differences between these two, it's hard to think of First Aid as someone else besides Ratchet. Although it is a little easier in the vehicle mode, and we'll get into it a little more once we get into robot mode. But last but not least, let's compare Groove. You can have a hard time balancing sometimes, to Cyberverse RC. Let me just get a little closer in. These two actually have the most drastic difference between them. Given that Groove actually has a pretty decent amount more paint than RC did. And as you can see, RC is just pretty much a flat blue, a really dark blue, with a black seat and a silver headlight. While Groove is a lighter blue, closer to the Deluxe RC, but even lighter than that, and has white detailing and a yellow headlight. So there's actually a good amount of difference between these two. Also, when you consider that the guns that Groove has actually is a little bit more than what RC did. She only had one of those guns. He's a bit more heavily armed. So Groove is actually one of the better repaints of the set, which is a little odd. But in any case, I think it's time we got these guys into robot mode and see how they look in that form. Now that we got the Protectobots in robot mode, why don't we start with Groove, who may be the easiest one to cover in this group. This mold looks pretty good for Groove. Luckily enough, the Cyberverse RC mold is the least feminine of the RCs from Prime, so this one can actually work somewhat decently. The only real problem, aside from the inaccurate to G1 color scheme, is the fact that Groove looks like a little midget in robot mode. And not that I have anything against midgets, okay? I'm just saying this Groove is like childlike next to the other two. I mean, the sizes are... He's just too small. I mean, let's face it, he's just way too small to fit in with the other guys. Let's face it, it's... I mean, take a look. You got Groove here, and he barely gets up to First Aid's thigh. Alright, you know... Yeah, I mean, he's smaller than First Aid's legs. So, that's pretty not bad. I mean, in all honesty, I would have liked a deluxe size trio. I'm sure that would have increased the price on it, but still, man, that size is just disheartening to see. But as far as comparisons to RC go, aside from the multiple guns, the differences aren't as obvious as in vehicle mode. Sure, you have the white on the shoulders now, but other than that, paint is similar, and well, aside from RC's backpack coming off very easy, that's just the way the mold works. Oops. Sorry. Well, aside from the paint scheme on RC being a little bit more silver on the chest, there isn't much of a difference between them. Just a lighter shade of blue. And 2 guns. But yeah, I mean, there's not much else really to Groove. It's just a really short member of this group. But anyway, we'll get up the Groove's case and take a look at First Aid. This color scheme isn't bad. The vehicle mode colors do translate well into robot mode, and there's actually a good amount of blue on the chest and arms, so he actually looks really nice. In most cases it's a direct color swap off a Ratchet, but you know, there's still some really nice touches, like the way the details of vehicle mode translate to his arms and legs. It really helps out. An interesting side effect of this mold is that First Aid's knees are actually made of a softer plastic, so they bend in all kinds of ways and can be a little bit floppier than the PRID Ratchet. Aside from that, articulation is the same. Shoulders joints at the arms, like ball joints at the shoulders. He has swivels left and right, like biceps. He has forward, backward, like a bit of a double jointed elbow, which is nice. No wrist joint, and nothing below the elbow as far as swivels. Head's on a ball joint. You got ball jointed hips, thigh swivel, double jointed knees, and a little toe articulation. So yeah, these pretty poseable, much like PRID Ratchet. The weapons are pretty much the same as Ratchet's. The twin scalpels, which have medical applications as well, which is a good thing because First Aid is known for being a pacifist. So these blades would not be using in battle. Well, he wouldn't use them in battle. So now, one downside is out of the packaging, one of the blades was actually warped at the end, so it's got a bit of curve to it, which is unfortunate, but not the end of the world, and it may just be mine. So just be careful about the weapons, because they can end up warped the way they're packaged in the box. Now, comparing him to Ratchet, first thing that comes to mind is First Aid needs a new head. I mean, Shapeways, Fakebuster, or anybody in Shapeways want to make a head for this guy? I mean, the head sculpt is nice. The Ratchet head sculpt is pretty good, but let's face it, they look really close to identical as far as the head goes. The rest of the body is actually different enough to make them feel like different bots, but the head is way too similar. I mean, the only differences are a stripe on the top of the head, and that Ratchet has a red chin, which is not enough to really make this feel like First Aid rather than just a variant of Ratchet, which is really unfortunate. And that trend seems to haunt the entire set. And honestly, Streetwise is actually even a worse case. I'll get into right away. We'll just bring in Prowl right now and compare these two heads. They're exactly the same. Same paint job. I mean, the only difference is that Streetwise's head is a little shinier. That's it. I mean, Prowl's head is a matte black, while Streetwise uses a shiny black. And that's the only difference between the paint jobs on the head. Otherwise, it's just exactly the same. I mean, this is more like Prowl 2 over being Streetwise. And looking at Streetwise's paint job doesn't really help endear him anymore. It is by far one of the most boring uses of this mold that I've ever seen. There's pretty much no definable detail on the chest, the legs, or the arms. It's all pretty much white, like a little touch of blue on the knees, and a blue Autobot police symbol on his chest, and some nice silver on the shoulders, but you know, a little more blue on the chest would have really brought this out. Like, make these bits blue. I mean, seriously, it doesn't take a whole lot, but a little bit more detail on him would really help him pop more. Otherwise, he just looks like someone you'd stuff in the background and forget about. And that is by far the biggest shame of all of them. I mean, you know, I really wanted to have some Protectobots for my classics shelf, but it would have been nice if these guys popped a bit more. And there is one more thing I need to do that might help them. So why don't we get Hotspot in there? Oh yeah, here are the Protectobots with their leader, Hotspot. And this is the GDO Hotspot, not the Amazon release for the other Protectobot set. I haven't gotten that one. Really just haven't felt the need for it. But as you can see, they look okay with Hotspot. I mean, as a group, these guys aren't bad. I mean, especially if we were to get Blades in the mix. But again, I don't have Blades handy, so these four would have to do. But a little bit more details on Streetwise, and maybe just a pinch more on First Aid would help to really make these guys pop more. I mean, otherwise they're just a little bit more bland than I like. Hopefully Repro Labels will make a set of stickers for these guys and really help them come into their own, because as much as I like the Protectobots, this set needs some help. That said, it's kind of hard to recommend it, given that it's like $30 plus shipping. Actually $32 plus shipping. But if you want some Protectobots, this may be the best bet you got, save for the third-party stuff, which would be through the roof in prices. I wouldn't lose hope on getting a Defensor in that Combiner Wars line, given that they're already doing Superion and Menasor, and each one is having a new limb that could very well become a Protectobot or a Combaticon. So anyway, I do hope you have enjoyed this review. Sorry if it sounded like a little bit more of a rant, but it's the way that this one feels to me. So yeah, thanks again for watching and have a wonderful evening.